Hello and welcome to Punishing Brutality, the transatlantic extreme metal podcast New Year's brutality thing. For a change, I've inadvertently jumped the intro. I'm Chris over in London, and we're talking to Matt over in Philadelphia. How are you today, Matthew?
Very well, sir. Very well.
Excellent. You don't sound drunk yet, which is a bit perturbing. I suppose it's only 1 p.m. where you are, isn't it?
It's only 1 o'clock. I've just opened the first beer of the day.
I was going to say, like, it's about that time, isn't it? So
It is, and I can't do Punishing Brutality without anything to kind of loosen the tongue.
Yes, you definitely need a couple of drinks to get things going. So what we got going on today?
Well, today we've got a massive episode again. I think we're not going to go anywhere near as long as we did for our bumper end of year Christmas bonanza, but we do have a lot of stuff going on. We are going to start by relitigating 2018. Which I'm sure everybody's very tired of at this point. But as is the case, when you start looking at everybody's end of year list, you find out that you missed out on loads of cool stuff. And there were a few things that we really, really liked that we never really got a chance to talk about. So I know that I was kind of the opinion, I could go and make a really awesome end of year playlist just off of the stuff that I'd seen on other people's lists. And I just want to take the opportunity to talk about some of the stuff that I found so late in the year last year or early this year that really deserves a mention before we forget about 2018 entirely and move on. So once we've done that, we will stop talking about 2018 forevermore, and we will start looking forward to what's coming in 2019, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then we are going to do another one of our "What do you mean you haven't heard" sections, which should be a lot of fun. That's an exceptionally brutal record. And then finally, as it is the final year of the teenies or whatever you want to call them, we're going
is that
to.
What we're on? Is it the teenies?
I'm told it's the teenies.
Is that what it is? I was wondering about this yesterday because it was the noughties, but that was 10 years ago now, wasn't it?
It was.
So I was thinking, what the hell is this then? The teen, fuck, that sounds shit, man.
It is shit, isn't it?
Teenies, for fuck's sake, get out of this decade, for God's sake.
Yes, well, we will next year. So what we're going to do, each episode that we do in 2019, we're going to look back at a particularly special album from this teeny decade. We'll probably end up with 5 or 6 each that we both really liked. Well, maybe not that we both really liked, but one of us really liked. From the decade, and we will we'll kick that off in this episode here. So without further ado, let's get brutal.
Yeah. Right, so the first album that I found, which was actually you were partially responsible of, because the guy from what was that band called? That New Zealand band.
I think you mean Convulsing.
Convulsing did an end
From
of year.
Australia.
And so I was looking through it, and I saw Bridgeburner, and I thought, why doesn't a band called Bridgeburner? Why has that never been done before? That's like fucking Bridgeburner, man. That's just amazing. And I know there's a song by Magruder Grind called Bridgeburner, but not a band. So I was like, I guess that's probably going to be quite angry. And it was.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, not really to my surprise, actually. It's like a sludge, hardcore, grindcore amalgamation, which, you know, probably quite easy to say there's a lot of that kind of stuff about, but I mean this really does what it's supposed to do. It's just furious. I first listened to it when I was on the tube, and I was like kind of walking through the tunnel to get to another tube line, and like it just kind of hit that kind of visceral nerve that just made me want to run away in the opposite direction to where I was supposed to going. And when I finally got into the tube, I was really, really agitated and angry. So I suppose that's a good thing. So it's half an hour. It just comes in, smashes you about a bit, and then just gets out of there. So I suppose like all that shit that you see on Instagram with, you know, you see like the pictures of people who've moved out to New Zealand and they're doing the lotus poses in front of the majestic landscapes and all that kind of thing, and the lakes. You seen all that?
You've lost me completely, mate, but do continue.
Okay, well, there's loads of people go out there that, I've moved to New Zealand and I've like found myself and blah, 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 and they're doing all these pretentious yoga poses. Anyway, this is the exact opposite of that. It's absolutely livid. I put it in the vein of something like Burnt by the Sun, or maybe the more kind of metallic moments of Botch. They put their influences down as Botch and Gorguts, so I suppose if you had to compare it a stretch, you'd say it's like a tech, hardcore, progressive death metal type band. It's everything that I love about extreme metal. It's down-tuned, it's got some twisted riffs, it's got some really deranged singing, and of course it's got double bass pedaling. So for me, that's my first contribution to this episode. What did you think?
It ticks all the boxes, mate. It's just absolutely fucking devastating.
Did you smash up your house?
Did I what?
Smash up your house when you listened to it?
Well, I was in the office, so I only smashed up my cubicle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was suitably planet leveling. I was very happy with this one. Yeah, it's nice to see, and I think we're going to see this continue actually throughout this episode, Wilson. That your kind of zen moment that you had towards the end of the previous year has been completely replaced by primal rage and a desire to kill.
I had to kind of regain my heavy metal credentials, didn't I? I was like, all this like ethereal stuff, and I was like, no, this will not do. And honestly, this is genuinely just the stuff that like, it was never ever that I'd moved away from heavy stuff. It was just that a lot of stuff just didn't really grab me, or so I thought. But then I discovered this, and I was like, okay, this is what I like about heavy music. You know, it's just, this is what does it for me. So yeah, it's very angry.
So, that was a portion of Astral Chord Severance from the debut album Abjection by Richmond, Virginia's Embra. This came out in September. I did not listen to it or even hear about it until the end of year list season. I saw it at number one on somebody's list, whoever it was, I forget. But it was a great list, and I thought, ooh, I need to have a listen to this. And goodness gracious me, this is extremely, extremely heavy. The bit that I just played actually is probably in their more of their kind of lighter, reflective moments. But this is very much kind of in that atmospheric black and death metal mold, kind of similar to Convulsing, who we just mentioned a moment ago. Has that kind of like droney guitar thing going on a little bit. It has these kind of. It doesn't have quite as much kind of introspection as the Convulsing album, I think. It's not quite as emotive, but it does have a few kind of like gazy and almost kind of elevated, kind of almost beautiful bits within all of the hideous bludgeoning. But a young band, unsigned band. They're really completely unknown. Like I said, I've only ever heard them mentioned once. Get out there on Bandcamp and pick their stuff up. It's really fucking cool. Did you like this, Wills?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really hear much beauty in it, to be honest with you, mate. I when it came on, I thought they sounded satanically angry.
Have you seen the album cover?
No.
Oh, mate, it's fucking brilliant. It's like this.
So I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of thing that you would, you post all of this metal imagery on our accounts. It's like that. It's like this picture of like, it looks like some kind of like floating like hive city in the air or something, except it's like desperately on fire and it's like bilging black smoke like some stricken World War II battleship. It's just so brutal. Now. Oh man, and it sounds like it looks. Yeah, it's such a brutal image, and it really kind of sums up the album really well.
That's very cool. Actually.
Yeah, maybe I was being a bit nice. It's really.
I really like this. It was how whenever I listen to something, I'll just kind of make notes as I'm going along, just as first impressions. And the words misanthropic filth made it down there. I figured they probably weren't all that happy about it. And then suddenly, like, this huge chug riff came in the Elder Wound and about a minute in, which I wasn't expecting, actually. And that's my kind of... When I heard it, I was like, okay, it's going to do that black metal dirge, which to me, I like riffs to be in there. I like something you can kind of catch onto, something that has a bit more impact to it, whereas I guess with some black metal stuff, it doesn't necessarily do that. This then did. And I was like, okay, so as long as doing the kind of negative dirge thing, and they also want to kind of jump all over your head. I thought that they released it like literally a few days before Christmas, and I think if they'd have released it at a bit more of a key time, like even November or October, I think it probably could have made a bit more of an impact. I think stuff just kind of gets forgotten about, and we missed it as well because obviously everybody's just getting ready for the Christmas break and what have you, and you just end up missing these albums. But no, I was really impressed with this. I thought it was cool. Well done.
Excellent. Wow, we've got two records that we both like. That's unusual.
Well, we don't want too much of that, do we?
Well, let's try for another. What have you got?
Okay, next I am going to go for... What did I get? I think it was going to be Terrorizer, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Go on, Terrorizer.
Caustic Attack by Terrorizer. For those not in the know, Terrorizer still do feature Pete Sandoval of Morbid Angel, but they used to have Jesse Pintado, who went to Napalm Death, and David Vincent, also of Morbid Angel, was in them like way back 20 odd years ago or whatever. And anyway, Jesse Pintado unfortunately passed away, and David Vincent's left. Anyway, Pete Sandoval's resurrected them, and even though he's the only guy from the original lineup, it's really, really good kind of Monday grindcore. It's really solid. It's very much in the vein of the sort of the latter day Napalm Death, the smear campaign era kind of stuff. I say latter day, that was 2005, but the later day stuff, it's a really, really good, solid, modern grindcore album with a few catchy riffs and some breakdowns instead of just being speed all the time, and it just does what it's supposed to do, and it kind of just really is a kind of a fun kind of album, fun bit of riotous music. it did what it was meant to. So I think you were impressed as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I loved it. I don't know why I didn't listen to it. It's bizarre because the name Terrorizer, I mean, you should just automatically be reaching out for anything that they release.
Well, who did the magazine name themselves after?
Well, of course.
There you go.
But yeah, like just legendary band. They still got it. There's so many fucking amazing riffs on this record.
Yeah.
It's just an enormous amount of fun. It's not gonna
change your life.
No, but like it's something that you could throw on like almost regardless of what mood you're in and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just like
It'll
awesome riffs all the way and just crushing and mayhem.
It'll help you got those gains in the gym, man. You know what I mean? You're going for those massive gains in the gym, and it'll definitely do the trick. So
yeah, it's fucking cool. Let's. I'm going to throw out a few names right now because I've got a lot of stuff. But some of these I'm going to talk about 3 albums real quick. But all of these kind of appeared on a lot of fairly high profile lists, so I won't go into too much detail about them. I do want to raise Chapel of Disease. So what was that album called? It had a really long name. It's called And As We Have Seen the Storm, We Have Embraced the Eye. It came out in late November, and I ended up posting this at number 20 on my top 30 for 2018. I think it could rise higher over time, but like it was obviously quite a late edition. Just a really, really fun record, but a little bit of a weird one. So it's like death metal vocals, but it's like kind of dad rock guitars. Like it's kind of weird. Like the really beautiful guitar work throughout the album, and like these massive like crushing riffs. Yeah, it's all played on this kind of like very low distortion, very very clean kind of tube amp sound. In some ways, I think the only kind of high profile metal band that I could really kind of compare this guitar tone to is maybe Kvelertak, although they sound absolutely nothing like them at all. This is much more kind of... We
both drew comparison to Dire Straits, didn't we?
Oh yeah. So the first song just sounds like Sultans of Swing.
Literally.
Exactly.
It came on and I was like, okay, right, I'm listening, and I'm like, right. And it sort of reminded me of Skeleton Witch, actually, is what I kind of thought with some of the solos right along, and I liked it, and I thought, okay, this is what it is. And then it sort of slows down, and then it comes into that section, and I was like, it sounds like Dire. In fact, I literally thought I thought that for some reason it had jumped onto another song, and I looked, and it was still the same band, and it sounds like bloody Dire Straits. And I'm thinking, so we've got like Rivers of Nihil are playing at being bloody George Michael. These guys try playing at being Dire Straits. Like, what are we going to get next? I don't know. Is like fucking Deicide going to come out sounding like New Kids on the Block? It's just like, what the hell is going on? But it was just like a total about turn. But much like Rivers of Nihil, it worked really well.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see.
It's fucking gold. Like some people are going to be kind of turned off by the guitar tone here, but like it's awesome riffs. It's just brilliant album. What else? We had right at the very, very end of the year, we had an album by Sulphur Eon come on, Size of Cosmic Chaos. That's also on Van Records, actually, another German band. And this is just huge, like, blackened death metal. If you like the what I consider the glory years of Behemoth, your kind of Apostasy and Evangelion and those kind of albums, you will like this. It's just super, super epic, very blackened, but like, genuinely death all the way with like heavy ass double kicks constantly. I really, really enjoyed this album. I think the only problem that I have with it is it's just a little bit too polished for my taste. Like kind of just almost kind of Dimmu Borgir levels of like high production, and it just kind of grated a little bit. I wanted it to be a bit more evil.
Takes the impact out of it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like when you see a band live, it's probably not going to sound all that polished when a band's going through a PA and you've got like the impact of the instruments, going through that kind of volume. So it's kind of when bands have this polished production, it does kind of surprise me a little bit because you can end up seeing these bands live and it'll be much more fun and actually effectively a completely different band as a result. So I do question why people, especially with extreme metal, why people will kind of clean up the sound.
Yeah,
For what
I mean, it's a style. It's just I don't think it always quite appeals to me that much, but I really did like this album. And then like I just finally just want to quickly go on to another album, and I'm going to play you a little bit of this one. This one actually came out in October. It's from an Italian band called Dewfall on Natramact Records. The album is Hermeticus. This is a kind of epic black metal concept album, which has some really nice kind of death metal sections. But I think what really immediately kind of leapt out to me is the drummer Antonio Lacapola, very heavily influenced, I think, by the great Martin Lopez. And there is a lot of kind of Opathy stuff going on throughout the album. And I think people should really, that like Opeth, should really check this out. This first track, Abomination Throne, really gets into this kind of Ackerfeld groove in the second half. And I'm going to play you a little bit of Eternal Flame of Athanor in a moment, which is also kind of pretty Opathy and kind of in the death metal sphere. But yeah, it kind of varies really nicely in pacing, tone, heaviness. I mean, it absolutely is a black metal album, but it gets like very kind of rock and roll in places. You just got to look at the kind of stompy rock rhythms at the beginning of Monolithic Dome. And I bring this up because I've heard absolutely nothing about this album. I've seen one very positive review for it online and nothing else. It didn't make anybody's list, so maybe I'm crazy. I think
you're just ahead of the curve, man. Everyone else.
Well,
hey, dude, you said about Eternal Flame?
Yes.
Is that like the Bangles or something? Is this the next one?
Yes, it is.
Dewfall Eternal Bangles.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
We might have a Nile album this year, if we want to.
A what?
A Nile album.
A Nile?
For
really?
Walk Like an Egyptian. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So this is going to be a recurring thing now. Try not to go too far down this road.
Yeah. Anyway, Hermeticus by Dewfall came in at number 18 on my list. Here is a section of Eternal Flame of Athanor.
I'm going to discuss Graph Orlock then.
Fuck yeah.
So, another one, and actually I think I mentioned this in the last episode. I think it came out like the day before we did the put, and we'd already kind of arranged everything, and like less than a day is not enough time to get the hang of an album. Anyway, Graph Orlock, an examination of violent events. They describe themselves as being cinema grindcore. They're kind of a semi-humorous take on that style, with kind of made-up film samples that sort of seem to be based around 80s films. They sort of do takeoffs of the Terminator. The last album had like a running theme of the assassination of Ronald Reagan. It sounds much, much better in real life. It features Justin Smith, who also plays in Dangers and Ghost Limb, who I would, especially with Dangers, definitely recommend checking out. They're a really, really brilliant band. But they're much more metallic. They've got some real kind of punky blast sections in there with some nice sort of, low-end riffing. And I'd say it's a bit rawer than the album that came before, Crime Traveller, which, again, I would definitely recommend checking out. And it just inadvertently made my albums of the year list as well. It's just a really, really, really good album, and I believe you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. You threw just non-stop good shit my way this month, Wills.
Wow.
Yeah, no, seriously, we were completely on the same page. Do you know what I really liked about this is just the attitude of it. Like, it's funny. There's no like bullshit machismo. It's just totally like having a laugh with really heavy, aggressive music, but it's not taking itself too seriously.
It's having a laugh, but it doesn't take the piss out of itself.
Right? Yeah.
Like they're a legit band, but they're not doing it in a look we're playing grindcore. Ironically, they mean they love what they do, but they're not like they're not po-faced with it, sort of thing.
Totally. Yeah, it's fucking cool. What do we have to play from them?
We're going to play all of Steps to Egg Room, as it's 2 minutes long.
Excellent.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. I'll lure it into the truck, lock it in the cabin. When I say when, you blow this fucker into space.
Everything's on me! I'm going to die! No ice, no water, no Jesus, no shit! I was with our illustrious creator, Mr. Wayland, when he was fucking life. He was fucking human. Entirely unworthy of his creation. Even monkey. Stood upright. At the point! You human! Take credit! Think it for yourself! I suffocated them! In every way! But you are not allowed to create! Leadership won't do! They are a thinking cosmic book like a record! They don't deserve to start again! And God to let them! There is a blink of an eye!
Okay, again, continuing my little theme, I'm just going to give a little tip of the hat to a couple of albums. Agrimonia's Awaken appeared on loads of people's lists. I hadn't listened to it prior to the kind of end of year period, and it started appearing on loads of lists, and rightfully so. It's really fantastic, kind of crusty black gaze kind of, but with like massive riffs and stuff. It's just a really, really quality album. So much has been written about this that I don't want to kind of delve too much into it. Go and check it out if you haven't already. It's quality. But one I had not heard about is a Hungarian band called Seer Bliss, who've been around for absolutely ages. Their album was called Letters from the Edge. This one, was not on my list at all. I hadn't heard about it. As soon as I started listening to it, I was completely blown away. It's black metal and kind of like experimental black metal, I guess, but kind of rocking with it. It has a lot of horns in it. They use a trombone a lot, and I would not think that it would work, but it absolutely does. There's just like brilliant songs from start to finish on that album. I mean, this album I think probably would get onto my top 10 maybe if I was to kind of like do my list again. And then finally, I just had to buy this record on vinyl yesterday. I've listened to this almost non-stop since early December. This would be very high on my list, but was not on my list at all. It's called The Bleakness of Our Constant, and it's by Eneferens, which is a solo project. The fellow's name is Jory Epidale, I think. This is his third album. He's on Bind Room with Panopticon. This guy's based out of Minnesota, so that kind of like cold black metal stuff, unsurprisingly. But this is not really a black metal album in my opinion. It's more the first song, first half of it is very much okay. It's going to be like Panopticon. It's going to be kind of atmospheric black metal, black gaze, but then it totally isn't, and it has all of these absolutely gorgeous, like clean vocals and acoustic sections throughout the album, particularly on like the end of Amethyst or the opening track, This Onward Reach. It really reminds me quite a bit of like Damnation style Opeth.
Totally had that Opeth thing. I thought it sounded very mournful. Yeah. And then the Opeth bit came in, and I thought, okay, this is totally Opeth. But then I kind of thought it was like the black gazy stuff, but minus the kind of the ethereal side of it. So like a more aggressive Heretoir, or maybe Alcest minus the keyboards or the kind of mystical stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking Alcest.
Then a little bit later on, it did become a little bit more kind of out there in that respect, but it definitely had the kind of a less jovial Heretoir or Alcest. Not that they're jovial, but if you listen to the two side by side, you'd see the difference that I mean. I thought it was kind of cool and worth going back to.
Yeah, I've just, like I said, I've had this on repeat. It's as you say, incredibly sad album. If this is not one for the gym.
Very windy.
But just absolutely beautiful. And I also would say like one of the kind of best tracks on the album, or one of the kind of like flagship tracks on the album, is A Weight of the Mind Periapt. Which is just straight up doom death. Like, no black metal at all, it's doom. And so it's a really richly varied album. He does a lot of stuff. He plays all of the instruments himself. This stuff, none of it is like programmed or anything. So he's doing guitar, bass, and drums, and the death, black, and clean vocals. Incredible musician. I absolutely fucking love this album. It didn't really get on many people's lists. I just don't understand why. There's some Eneferens.
next I want to go for Earthmass, Spectral Gates. You put them loosely in the vein of stuff like Bong Ripper or maybe Torch, I suppose. They're a London band, actually. They play within the kind of there's a underground promotions thing called South London Scum, who do some really cool bands like promote some really cool bands like these guys and Harrowed, who we'll discuss in a little while. And I actually found them by accident. I was at another gig, and this was over the PA, and I was like, who the fuck's this? So I went over and asked, and that's who it was. So anyway, I checked out the last album, and then this one came out, and they surprise released it, and I never got around to listening to it until kind of over Christmas time, and it's actually brilliant. It's only 3 songs long, but it's very like atmospheric. It's got a good sort of dynamic of the really kind of psychedelic, stonery, like out there soloing, noodling thing, and then it'll go into these crushing kind of chugs as well. So it really covers the whole gamut of everything that stuff does. I've had a chance to listen to it a good few times, and it's solid as fuck. So they don't have anything on social media, streaming service or anything. So you'll have to go and buy it. But honestly, just go and buy it, and buy the last one while you're at it as well, because it's just brilliant. So what do you think?
For fans of Elder,
Yes.
Yeah, Elder released one of the albums of 2017. I thought that was absolutely fantastic, that record. And if you like that, then you will like this.
They supported Elder not so long ago over here.
Surprised me.
Yeah, definitely in that vein.
It's not quite as wild and chaotic as Elder, I think. It's more heavy, but very much in that kind of thing. But then like the third song, I think, is Ritual, right? And it's like 15 minutes long or whatever, as you would expect. But then like halfway through, you get these female vocals coming in that sound just exactly like Grace Slick from Jefferson Airplane. It's like so 70s, it's like crashing and like doomy, but it's like psychedelic 70s stuff, and I just loved it.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It's past. I keep like I've still not seen them live, and every time it comes up, I'm like, right, I'm going to go and see this band. I'm going to go and see him. But I had to get him in as well, because I know we did that UK band special thing a little while back, and I do genuinely love this, but also I felt like I had to mention it because they're like it's easy to cover the obvious bigger names and what have you, but something this is a small level that deserves people to know about. So obviously, with us being the esteemed journalists that we are, I'm sure that they will rock it to huge heights. So yeah, anyway, this is an excerpt from the track Relic, so enjoy. Okay, and I've just got one more that I'm going to discuss very, very, very briefly. They're a band called the Canyon Observer, and their album was called Null, and they are from Slovenia, I believe. It's just like, I'm sorry, man, but there's just no joy with this one. You know how you didn't enjoy listening to LNNN? I kind of thought that it's in that vein, and kind of like your Erd, Celeste, LLNN, that sort of like white noisy hardcore noise rock type thing. It's like a hideous mutation of your most horrendous heavy metal nightmares, and it was great. So did you listen to it? Did you enjoy it?
I did, and I think it might be the heaviest thing you've ever made me listen to. Absolutely brutalizing, my goodness.
It's quite crushing, isn't it? So, but yeah, Canyon Observer, and I'm hoping to hear a bit more of them. I'm hoping to see them before long as well. So, yeah. Okay.
Really, really ridiculously heavy. And then I'm just looking at my notes. There was one other thing that I wanted to cover. I urge people that like weird metal, if you haven't already, go out and listen to the Psy album, Hair to Despair, which came out right at the end of last year. These are one of the weirdest and most original bands of metal for sure. Like from Japan, I'm sure most people are aware of them. I don't really want to kind of go into them too much. I just want to give a tip of the hat to our friends over at Phil's Breakfast Metal. They did a really good review of this in their end of the year list episodes, and they did it way more justice than I could.
I think I saw them, at Damnation. Are they Japanese?
Psy, yeah.
I saw them. I say I saw them. I saw them come on, and then I left.
Yeah, this is not your cup of
my
tea.
opinion. Maybe my opinion would change now, but I remember they played at Damnation one year, and there was lots and lots of fuss. Everybody's like, "Oh, Psy are playing! It's gonna be amazing! Psy!" So I went and watched them. I was like, "No." But hey, obviously, a lot of people seem to think they're cool, and you do as well. So maybe I need to give that another investigation. But
they're a very, very original band. Everything that they release is just fascinating and just too odd to describe, but always compelling. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on
to live stuff.
Should we talk about live stuff?
Let's talk about live stuff. Okay, well, yesterday, literally last night, I booked tickets to see Behemoth at the Gate and Wolves in the Throne Room at the Forum in Kentish Town Forum in London on February the 8th. I'm not like none of them are in my Premier League of bands that I listen to, but we were discussing Slaughter of the Soul yesterday by At the Gates, and obviously, you can't really argue with that album. And they're bands that I just feel like I just really, really should go and see. And I'm like, you know what? 30 quid, I'll go and watch all three bands, get my money's worth, and I'd love to see Behemoth live anyway, just to see them do the older stuff, which is much more intense.
Yeah, they don't play much of it these days, but they are entertaining live.
You know what? I listened to that last album, that newish album yesterday, and it's still pretty cool. I think it's a lot more brutal than we maybe gave it credit for. Probably not compared to the days of the older stuff, but it's definitely a lot more full on. But
yeah. Well, I mean, At the Gates are amazing.
Well, I really, really need to see At the Gates, and I missed them 5 years ago, and I'm like, well, I don't know when my next choice will be, my next chance will be, so I should probably sort it out.
I don't think you'll be very impressed with Wolves in the Throne Room. They're not really your thing, mate. But
you say that a track came on, I heard a random track somewhere. I thought it was kind of cool, but they are in that kind of black gaze, which I'm not completely.
Yeah, atmospheric black metal. I think they're great, and I can't wait to hear what you think. But anyway, yeah, you're gonna have to do a little live review of that one. I missed that gig when it came through Philly, so very interested to hear what you have to say. What else is coming up in your neck of the woods?
So I'm going to see Soul Stuff here on March the 10th at Queen Elizabeth Hall. They're I don't know what the hell you would describe. Have you heard them?
Yeah.
How would you describe them? Just briefly. We don't have got time, but.
Oh God, I don't know.
If Sigur Rós tried to do a rock and roll black metal band, would be my guess, but it doesn't really. I don't know what the hell you describe them as that, but they're very
folk metal.
Yeah, sort of, but not really. That kind of makes you think that they're all going to be drinking mead and dancing around with Viking helmets, and they're definitely not that.
No.
I don't know, but anyway, I'm seeing them at Queen Elizabeth Hall, which is where I also saw Alcest play all of Kodama, and I absolutely love that venue. So I think it's going to be one of those ones where you wouldn't want to see them anywhere else other than that. I think it'll suit them really well. So
yeah, I'm surprised you're going to that one, but cool, awesome. I would go.
Well, Solstice. They're one of those bands that I dismissed previously until I heard them by chance, and I was like, this is what they never ever were a band that I would have gone and sought out. But once I heard them, I was like, these are actually really, really good. So we got Cripple Black Phoenix on March 21st. I think they would have been better suited to the Elizabeth Hall, but I'm being a pretentious wanker probably, so I'll be interested to check them out live. They've got it's put together by the old drummer from Iron Monkey, but also the new At the Gates guitarist plays in them as well. So they're a bit of a international supergroup. Again, I don't know where you would put them, roughly in the post rock sort of genre, but I don't know what you describe that. So I'm seeing them. Who else is on? Daughters at the Dome, April the 20th. It's going to be an experience. A friend of mine saw him in 2003 and said that the frontman pissed on the crowd. There's old footage of him wrapping his dick around a microphone, so I suppose anything's possible, but I think he's probably calmed down a bit by now, but I think that'll be badass. 11th of May, I'm going to go and see Casket Feeder and Harrowed via South London Scum.
Oh, that'll be heavy.
Yeah, and also there is Downsurge Festival. I can't remember the date because I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think that's in March, and that is going to have Casket Feeder, but I'm going for the day with LLNN and Harrowed. Funnily enough, both on the same day, LLNN and Harrowed. So that'll be a crushing one as well. What about you? Who you got coming up?
Well, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be going to yet. I mean, I know that I'm going to be going to the Decibel Tour, Morbid Angel, Immolation, Blood Incantation, and Necrot. Necrot. I love them. Cannibal Corpse, I'm not entirely sure. They're on the tour, maybe.
The guitarist went completely... No, they are. They're doing all their dates, apparently.
Okay, well, we'll see. So that's on March 8th. Daughters are playing Union Transfer in Philly on 2/16. At the same night as Terror are playing at First Unitarian.
You must be torn.
I'm not sure that I'll make either of those, unfortunately. And then there's another one that is definitely something that's a bit of a decision to make. On 5th of April, Rivers of Nile, Ethios, and Conjurer are playing at Voltage Lounge, while across town at Union Transfer, Yob and Amun-Ra are playing. So
I know which one.
I know which one you'd be at.
I think I know the one you should go to.
Yeah.
Especially as you missed Conjurer by like 20 minutes, and then like you saw them stood by the you were stood next to them, in fact, watching like Rolo Tomasi, but you never saw them play. So you should definitely take the opportunity.
I'll see him hometown. So and then of course we have the Decibel Beer and Metal Fest coming up on 4/14.
I'd just like to mention, actually, on the subject of Blood Incantation, it's really, really cool to see them landing on these big bills.
Yes.
I think like when the album came out, I was like, oh my god, like this is so good. And then it's like, and they've been known to a point, but it looks like there's a bit of a push to kind of maybe hopefully push them to the forefront. So, I mean, that tour, I mean, you know, Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse, be supporting them. I mean, does it get any bigger than that within the death metal sort of world? I don't think it does it? You know, it's kind of, that's just such a huge tour for them to be on. So,
yeah, they have an album coming out in 2019.
They
Blood
do.
Incantation, and I'm very excited. It's going to be awesome. Shall we talk about some other stuff that's coming out in 2019?
Red like my bride.
Yeah, so I've mentioned twice before, but I'm just going to say it quickly. Harrowed, I believe they're bringing out a new LP of some description. I don't know exactly what, but they have mentioned a little while that it's coming, something coming along. They're in the vein of, you say cursed and trap them across the hardcore stuff, but I mean, that's just such a vague term. But everybody just go and listen to their last album, Into Infernal. It's well worth investigating. Nails, this is speculation, but he's actually said that they are going to be bringing out some music of some kind. They have a history of releasing an album every 3 years, so I think it's about time. I mean, I absolutely fucking love Nails. That last album was my favourite one so far, so I'm really, really looking forward to that one, if they get round to it. Armed for Apocalypse, they are now minus pretty much the entire band from when they recorded their last album, 2013's The Road Will End. They just have the drummer left now. But their Palm Reader EP was absolutely, crushing as hell, and I loved it. And they got a new album on the way, too, so that's something to look forward to. Here's one I think we can jointly discuss, Matthew. Carcass.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, there's not really much more you can say.
There isn't much to discuss, is there? Because you just know that it's going to be
No,
fucking
you just
awesome.
say Carcass have an album coming out. That's all you need to say. Yeah. I loved Surgical Steel. I thought it was wicked. I mean, it's obviously it's not. It wasn't to the point of heartwork or necroticism, but it was still a really, really good album that was, more than stood up to what you could have hoped for them. So I'll be interested to see.
Way exceeded what I hoped after such a long break. I had very low expectations, and Surgical Steel.
They discovered what they loved about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's rightly regarded as one of those great comeback albums. I think the only negative thing that anybody has ever said about Surgical Steel is that it sounds so much like Heartwork. And it's it sounds so much like the best album ever, so
what would they? You can always level a criticism at anything that comes back of any kind of quality, but it's like, well, I mean, Heartwork is regarded as one of the most influential melodic death metal, progressive, whatever albums of all time, and that was a great album, so I think, for it to be compared to that is definitely not a negative. No, I thought it was brilliant, so the next one, I mean, they've had 6 years to do it, so hopefully that'd be rad. Nostromo, they've announced they're bringing out an EP in March. I think it might be March the 12th. I mean, obviously, my love for Eke Lex. I was a little bit underwhelmed by their single they brought out last year called Uraeus, if I'm totally honest. But I've seen some live footage of them, and they're still, they absolutely really bring it live. It's absolutely just completely destructive as hell. So I'm hoping it'll be amazing, but I'll reserve judgment, man. I mean, there's so much opportunity for disappointment. You know what I mean? But who else is on your radar?
The obvious. Tomb Mold, we just mentioned Blood Incantation and Gatecreeper all have albums due in 2019, so we can already say that it's going to be a good year for the Dirty Death. That's definitely on my watch list. I know that since the huge success of Esoteric Malacology by Sludge, that they've been in the studio or in the bedroom or wherever it is they do their work with a couple of additional members, former members of Black Dahlia Murder. So they're working on some stuff. So whether or not that comes out in 2019, I don't know, but I really hope that it does. Should be freaking amazing. I was just listening today to the promotion song by a Japanese tech death band called Desecravity. They are like Sludge on Willowtip. Their album is going to come out on 1/25. If it's anything like the single, it's going to be freaking awesome. And then I very recently, again, continuing on this Willowtip theme, I basically think that if you're on Willowtip, you're going to be good. I have absolute 100% faith in the man.
They're your go-to label.
One of them, yeah. I mean, they just put out superb, brutal and technical death metal, they're just always at the forefront. So anytime I see Willertip saying, here's some good stuff, go and check it out, I will check it out. The other day, they went online and they said, hey, check out this EP from this New Jersey band called Hath. I said, okay, I'll go and check that out. And it's called Hive. It came out in 2015. It's a 5-track EP. It's Name Your Price on Bandcamp. Go and have a look. It is really, really fucking good. They, for me, basically, ever since Opeth released what I consider to be their final great album, Ghost Reveries, there's just been this kind of big hole for me where I'm trying to fill that gap.
Fill your Opeth void.
Yeah. Last year, there was a really brilliant album, a solo project called Well of the Disquieted by a band called, or a project called Hands of Despair. That was very Opethy, but really kind of towards the more progressive end of the Opeth style. Whereas what Hath are doing is much more of the kind of aggressive end of it. So there's no clean vocals at all, though it does have really cool acoustic pieces. But they're kind of more like crossing and blending a little bit between Opeth and Bloodbath, which I know obviously like 2 Acapella projects, but no longer anyway in Bloodbath's case. But very, very aggressive, really nice songwriting, really good riffs, beautifully played. I was so funny. I just looked him up on Facebook, and then it was like, oh shit, they're playing in Philly like on Thursday. So 2 days I just rocked up and went to see him, supporting Mikorba and Cognitive down in Center City, which is just basically a tech death lineup, and that was a lot of fun. But Hath played us some of their older stuff and some of their new stuff. I think we're going to see new songs in the very near future. I got to hear at least one of them on Thursday night, and it was really fucking good. If this album, which I believe is due out in April, is anywhere near as good as this this EP, then look out. These guys are gonna take over, and they are now on tour. They're doing the rest of the tour with Cognitive. So if you're in the States, check that out and see if you can go and find them and say hello to them. They're really nice guys.
Just very quickly before we move on to the next section, I want to mention that there is a new Into Armour album coming out. I don't know if you ever listened to their last one, Paradise Gallows. I would happily put that into the What Do You Mean You've Not Heard list that we do. It's really, really excellent, progressive death doom, psychedelic sort of music. I saw them at Desert Fest a couple of years ago, and they completely stole the show. Hopefully this will be an awesome album. And there are also albums coming from Exorder and Baroness, and there's loads of other people who I looked through that I meant to mention that I've now completely forgotten about. But in theory, it's going to be an amazing year. We'll see what we think in 12 months' time, I suppose, won't we?
So, by the way,
yeah,
while we're talking about forthcoming stuff for 2019, there is supposedly going to be a release by a Bristol, London outfit known as Row of Ashes.
Oh, really?
To which Punishing Brutality has something of a relationship.
As an affiliation.
So Chris, in all of his modesty, will never talk about this.
Never.
Shameless self-promotion, but Chris's band Row of Ashes may well have a record coming out at some point this year. They do. I've been very privileged to have a listen to some of the songs that are going to be on this, and it's going to be really fucking good. So without kissing your ass too much, I'm very excited about that, and I will talk about it on this show and when it comes out, and that way you don't consider it shameless blowing your own trumpet.
I'll transfer the money to you once this cast is done. Yeah.
Outstanding. I'll let you know my exorbitant fees.
No, I'm looking forward to that coming out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's talk about me. Why not? Let's just talk about it. No, I'm really like the fact that you like it, actually, because you never really know when you give it to your mates, especially with your friends, because they're so critical as well. They'll just say it's shit because, just because they think it's funny to say it's shit, which is quite funny as well. So it's nice when people genuinely like it. So, I'm sure we'll talk about me a bit further down the line, but watch out for it, kids. It'll be great.
Yeah. All right. So, as we've been talking about forthcoming stuff, I'm going to kind of segue a little bit, right? So, we had a new song in November entitled Fire, God and Fear by Greek black metal legends Rotting Christ. It was followed up by Heaven and Hell and Fire. There's a lot of fire going on here.
Yeah.
I wasn't at all keen on the first one. Thought it was a bit lame. The second one's a bit better. They are keeping with the same formula that they've been going with for the past couple of albums, which is a bit of a kind of melodical death metal vibe with their traditionally anti-Christian bent. So yeah, it seems like this is going to be along the lines of 2016's Rituals, which in turn very much followed on from its far superior predecessor, Kata ton Demona Aetoi. So that was a section of Ahura Mazda Anra Mainyun, one of many completely unpronounceable names.
How pissed are you now?
From this incredible album released on March 1st, 2013 on Season of Mist. This is one of my albums of the teenies. So Kataton Demona Etoi, I see there's some kind of debate about what it does actually mean. You think it's something like satanic, right? But it's actually taken from Jim Morrison's Tombstone. And the most kind of conventional translation of it that I've seen is "do what thou wilt," but I've seen some other ones that kind of retranslate it to something along the lines of kind of adhere to your demon or your spirit or whatever. And anyway, it's not very satanic.
You'll need to adhere to your own demon from time to time, man.
Well, it's demon with an AE.
Oh, what's the difference?
Well, I'm not quite sure, but perhaps in Greek mythology we can find somebody that actually knows this kind of stuff and they can explain it. But anyway, so it's Greek. Rotting Christ obviously been around for over 20 years when they released this album, and they've been in the kind of black metal scene, I think, from the kind of late 80s. In basically the kind of like standard bearers of Hellenic black metal. And then just out of nowhere, they just dropped this fucking melodic death metal album, and everybody went, "What the fuck? What is this? Like, what, and why is this so good?"
Did everybody like it straight off, or did they get a massive backlash?
Well, I mean, I think that the traditional people that fans of the band that were expecting something really black and grimy and you know, kind of evil were appalled. But people like me that have really kind of like found all of this amazing melodic death metal in the, you know, from the 90s and from the 2000s, I really didn't think that there was a huge amount like happening around that kind of like genre at this time. And to be honest, this doesn't really sound like it doesn't sound like Swedish melodic death metal, and I think it's kind of almost, you're kind of pigeonholing it there because of the nature of the drums and the riffing, and you know, it's definitely not black metal. I think it kind of sits there, but it's a funny old album. It's a bit like an AC/DC album, or indeed AC/DC's career. And I kind of, you know, alluded to this with the two albums or the album after this, and it seems what's coming. You know, they basically kind of like found a time signature and a key, and then they just play that for the entire album, pretty much.
There is a definite recurrent theme in there, isn't it? It's it's almost like an extended song that has different movements within it, and there's a certain motif that they keep coming back to throughout the but not in a way that they've kind of, you know, run out of ideas. It sounds like it's an intentional an intentional delivery for it to come back round to that. It does have this kind of piano-driven kind of interlude in the middle of the album, and again, "Sin ubeste shi inirashte" or something like that. Anyway, who knows? And that's got this kind of wailing female vocals. It's very odd. But the rest of the album is just that kind of like steady, medium-paced double kick with the big kind of sides, like just kind of driving it along. The only area that it really, I think, kind of diversifies is in this kind of like multi-instrumentalism, where they're using all of these kind of like bagpipes and, you know, weird horns and stuff. It gives it this ancient kind of feel. You know, like it's kind of really modern and advanced kind of melodic death metal, but kind of being performed in this like Greek amphitheater in front of loads of like philosophers and togas and stuff. Or maybe like Xerxes with like, you imagine Xerxes in like fucking like 300 or something, like all some weird shit going on. You know, lots of sacrifices and shizzle and, you know, all the good
chanting.
stuff.
Yeah. But anyway,
there's a lot of chanting in there, isn't there?
There's a lot of chanting. I'm pretty sure it's all about praise to thee, O Satan.
Yeah,
but it's just
good, but you know.
Yeah, I just love this album. I never get bored of it. It's something that I can just kind of go to anytime, any mood, and just put it on, and it just fucking rocks. It just rocks. It's in that perfect little kind of niche of a formula that they've discovered for themselves, and I'm perfectly okay with them just returning to it over and over again throughout the album, as you say. It's just a huge amount of fun. I think a lot of people are going to accuse me of a vast overreach in putting this in an album of the decade, but subjectivity, man, subjectivity. This is not objective truth. This is art, man. So
do you want to know what my views on it?
I do.
Okay. I actually really liked it. You'll be surprised to hear.
Come again?
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. At first, it reminded me of Satanist by Behemoth, and I was like, right, this is of no surprise that Matt likes this whatsoever.
It's much more melodic than that.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, God, how am I going to get through this bloody album, for Christ's sake? But then it started, I don't know, there's just something about it I really, really liked. There's bits that stand out for me. There's like the middle section of Sini Ibuesta Silasa Iwa Voodoo. I was like...
That's the piano one, right?
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
There's some kind of one thing that really stood out was kind of like, you're saying like it goes back to these kind of mantra style sort of chugs, this repetitive rhythm thing. And there's one bit that comes in where it's doing the chugs over blast beats, which you don't really hear. Generally, it's something that you don't hear that often, which you should do because it sounds amazing. And there's something. It was kind of I got that it's kind of sort of full on and ambient at the same time. I think it's the mix of the rhythms and the sort of the high end guitar line just has this strange kind of contradiction within its sound of being really, really heavy, but really atmospheric and ambient at the same time. Piang Kanka, there's a similar fashion, and this is where I started to pick up on what we were saying about how it goes back to that same motive throughout the course of the album. I love the atmosphere in this one. The playing was of a really, really high standard. You can tell that they're an established band that have been doing it for years and years and years. I mean, it's just pretty professional beyond belief. Ahura Mazda reminded me of Enter Sandman when it came on, but with like an...
Yeah, it's epic like that, isn't it?
Like an Eastern vocal. So I imagine the purists. I guess maybe this is their Black album. But I mean, this is like still a fairly aggressive album. My favourite, and this is probably like the power ballad. I mean, I've not given it to a massive listen to it, but like it was actually Iwa Voodoo was my favourite one. It's almost like a driving rock song. It's like relatively restrained, but really good playing, really, very atmospheric. Not a complete about turn of sound. It's got like some of the ritual type chants in there. And then the chorus is sort of driving rock, but then it just goes off on this solo, which is just like, just goes really big rock. Like I've got it down as being like a cult November Rain.
That's such a good thing to say, man. Like I totally agree with you. I totally get what you're saying.
I'm gonna go like Slash in 1991 when he'd had too much coke, and I'm gonna fucking play it over black metal.
Right? Isn't it just like so accessible, but like really kind of really metallic at the same time?
Yeah. I say that it sounds like Slash going off on a November Rain solo, but I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I mean, I fucking love Guns N' Roses anyway, but like I think it sounds great. I think it works really, really well, and that's like the mark of a good band. They can pull these influences to get. Not that I'm saying they're influenced by Slash, but in theory that's something that sounds like it's going to be shit, doesn't it? And it just sounds like it's going to be absolute bollocks, but it works really, really well. So I don't think I'd go back to it a lot. But it sort of put a style of music that I would usually consider to be quite cheesy into a context that I actually enjoyed. So I guess, it's sort of, it's always interesting. It's never anything that I would ever have gone and listened to. Like Rotting Christ, I'd have been like, nah, like just no way. But because I had to, I found something that I wasn't expecting to find, and I think it's just really interesting how sometimes if you dig a bit deeper within something that you're not that familiar with, or even something you think you've written off entirely that you are familiar enough with, you can still be surprised. And in this case, I was actually really, really surprised. Okay, so we are going to do a What Do You Mean You Haven't Heard album, and I am going to choose Heart of Darkness by Burnt by the Sun, which came out in 2009 on Relapse Records. Right from the off, this album's like been thrown off a cliff, basically. It leaves no doubt to its intention. The first track, In a Station, flies in at speed, and it kind of reminds me of a car just smashing into a wall. It just smashes into itself, and then just sort of goes off at speed again. And then it gets really, really good, and I insist that we just listen to the entire track now, because I just fucking love it, and it's just punishing. So here is In a Station by Burnt by the Sun.
What a wonderful, we gotta never
Matt, you may have heard of this band, or people in general may have known of the band because their drummer is now in Municipal Waste. But prior to that, for many years, he was in a number of really acclaimed grime metal experimental bands, such as Discordance, Axis, and Melt Banana. But Burnt by the Sun was probably one of his least acclaimed or known projects, but is definitely my favourite of everything that he's done. They formed in the early 2000s. They released an EP, purists say is the best thing they've done, which is admittedly a very, very full-on and brutal, amazing EP. They brought out Soundtrack to the Personal Revolution album in 2002, which, to be honest, I would put on a par with this album. I could easily just as soon feature that on here as I would this one. It's one of my all-time favourite heavy albums. They've got these really nice chunky metal riffs with blast segments and but they've got these inventive rhythms that make it interesting and different from the other hardcore metal that's out there. We were discussing this the other day. This band are kind of what metalcore should theoretically sound like, and you do have bands like these guys and Botch and Dead Guy that do count as metalcore, but a lot of people associate that style with the auto-tune singy choruses and the one note sort of like whiny sort of fringy bullshit.
Are you talking about Killswitch Engage here, Wilson?
No, I wasn't actually, but they're a relatively light band, aren't they, Killswitch Engage? But no,
yeah, I mean just the melodic stuff, and I think
they're without their place though, Killswitch. I don't think they're without their place. I don't like their chorus thing.
So here it is. So I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that I think when people think metalcore nowadays, they have a certain thing in mind, right? And it could be something that's kind of a little bit more at the accessible end, like a Killswitch, or maybe something that's a little bit, more kind of
for my Valentine, the older Bullet for My Valentine. Right. That horrible commercial, sterile pop music.
But then there's also kind of like really aggressive, kind of technical stuff, which is maybe something more like an Unearth, for example.
Exactly.
But then this is hardcore played by metal musicians, if that makes any sense.
Yes, no, yeah.
It's kind of like it's metallic hardcore, not in the Hatebreed kind of sense, but like. No. It's hardcore with blast beats, and it's weird. Anyway, sorry, I'm diverting.
No. I'm interested. I mean, they actually formed this band because they were the Dave Witt, the drummer, and the guitarist were disappointed with a lot of heavy releases that come out that they were really looking forward to, and they felt really let down by it. So at that point in the early 2000s, this is what they kind of thought that a heavy band should sound like. So they released the first album. The second album came out, Perfect as the Enemy is Good, was really, really good, but came out it was written in a 3-week break between tours. Had some amazing stuff and some excellent ideas, but to me a lot of the tracks seemed to lose their way, which was a shame because I think overall it actually could have been as strong an album as either of the other two, but they didn't have enough time to fully realise it. Anyway, I'm banging on. Let's just get round to this album. Half the band left. Dave Witt went and joined Municipal Waste, and they carried on for a bit with half the lineup before they realised that everybody actually needed a new Burnt by the Sun album. Then 6 years later, they came round and they released Heart of Darkness. Yeah, so this album is basically a masterclass in intensity. It switches between sections of speed, groove, and complete power. The riffing's prodigious. unconventional. There's some interesting ideas that take it outside of hardcore metal. If you look at the track we just played, Party to the Unsound Method, it has a bit of an unorthodox structure and some kind of atypical riffing, but the elements never sound contrived. They all like serve the purpose of just making the band sound more furious when the inevitable low-end chugs come in. They toy with some atmosphere on tracks such as Rust and Future Primitive, which kind of starts in an almost black metal fashion. Then
it does. Total Black and Death.
Almost, yeah.
It's like all the tremolo picking is like pure black and Death. That bit, and like that. It's really, really fucking good. It's right up my alley. Is that? I was not expecting that at all on this album. I was like,
and this is the thing,
where the fuck has that come from?
Yeah, like people see. I remember talking to a mate about them once, and he goes, "Oh, is that the band with the tough guy frontman?" And it's kind of, I think if you just saw a brief 2-minute footage of them, you think, they are this tough guy band, and they do have a lot of those kind of tropes in place. But when you listen to it, there is actually a lot more going on underneath it, and which I think they're actually a really, really unique band. But they do, and with that track, Rust Future Primitive, after that, it all breaks down and just goes into this. What did I put it down as? A monolithic rampage of juddering riffage. And I was listening to that because I was listening to it just to like refresh my memory, and I was like, and as I was doing it, that was what I kind of unconsciously wrote, and then it just brought the metal. I mean, that just like we're going to play that in a second. It's just like a hulking beast of just punishment. You know what I mean? It's just fucking crushing. So I absolutely love this album. It's one of my all-time favourites. It's definitely one of my. I know this isn't an album of the decade section. This is definitely one of my albums of the decade. I just love it. Before we finish up, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, I was incredibly impressed immediately by the drumming, and this was I didn't realize that it was the same guy who plays in Municipal Waste, but it's very clear that this is not a conventional hardcore album, though it is kind of like immediately I was like, well, this is a hardcore album. This is with a very metallic edge, and I kind of initially I was kind of thinking, well, this is kind of like regular kind of what we refer to as gymcore, like tough guy stuff. It's just man. It's very empowering, and but it's not kind of like cheesy in that kind of way. The drumming is just absolutely furious in a way that you just don't see on hardcore records. Like he's just double kick and just blazing all over the kick like constantly.
I mean, he's known for it. You know what I mean? He's known within like God knows like throughout the whole extreme metal subgenre. He is known as being one of the most awesome drummers out there. There's just no. He's like the Dave Lombardo of the grindcore and the hardcore, whatever you want to call it. He's like the Dave Lombardo of that kind of scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the stuff that he does in Municipal Waste is like, I mean, he's obviously very good and he's very active.
Yeah.
But for what is a relatively kind of like simplistic style thrash crossover, I'm surprised he doesn't get bored, because he's just like, he's completely like insane on this album.
Oh yeah.
And it's very unconventional for this kind of genre, which is why like I'm kind of like the feel and ethos of it screams hardcore.
Yeah.
But then the musicality of it goes off in these directions that you totally don't expect, whether it's from the drumming or the riffing. We talked about the kind of like the black metal influences there, which just come completely out of nowhere and then go away and aren't heard again. It's kind of like just coming from a lot of different places and doing a lot of different things with that kind of, but still having those like massive hardcore breakdown chugs that you take to the gym.
It really fucking delivers. When you want the heaviness, it brings it. It just really kicks in where it has to. It just keeps it so interesting.
Yeah,
that's why I love it.
Cool, man.
Now we're going to close out the show with an excerpt from Rust Future Primitive, which is the track that we were just talking about, from the album Heart of Darkness by Burnt by the Sun. So enjoy, kids.
Alright, well, thanks for listening. This has been our first episode of 2019, episode 6, Punishing Brutality. As always, you can find us on Twitter at PunishBrutal. Find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. We have a website, punishingbrutality.blueberry.com. What else? I think that's it. You can get us on Stitcher. You can get us on iTunes. You can
Twitter.
find us on Spotify.
Yeah.
We are online. Come and interact with us. Tell us where our shit stinks, and give us some props if you feel like it.
And I just want to close out by saying it's all downhill from here.
It may be all downhill from here. But...
It's the beginning of 2019, but it's all downhill towards the end of the year now, man. This is the high point.
Oh, well, we'll live through it with a lot of punishing music to carry us through. All right, Will, take care. All metal all the time.
Bye.
Bye.